Alright, what's going on, you guys watching my channel, Cloudbusted? So I'm working on this Midnight Pumpkin. This is a part number 58070. It's an original Midnight Pumpkin, not a re-release. So I bought this a while ago. I did an unboxing video. So my first RC, my first hobby grade RC was a Midnight Pumpkin. First kit I ever built was a Traxxas sledgehammer. So anyway, whenever I build these kits, I just kind of set my phone right here. It's an iPhone. I'm really an Android man. This is my first iPhone. I never had an iPhone before. Definitely going to switch back to Android. Guy at Verizon talked me into this. I don't really like it, so I'll go back to Android anyway. So I set my phone right there and I watched my favorite RC videos when I build these kits. And a video popped up from one of my favorite channels, Tamiya Legends. And it was a video about like retro RC. He did a bunch of pictures from like old RC photos that people had from when they were kids. And that thing really resonated with me, so I figured I would add to it. And I don't know if it's cool to talk about other channels. If it's not, I'm sorry. It's my Legends, but I really like your channel, so I figured I'd show you some of the vintage RC stuff that I have. So let's take a look. So I saved most of my old RC car action mags, which is weird because I'm not a hoarder or anything. In fact, I'm like strongly against hoarding, but I don't know, for some reason I saved all my old car action mags. So I dug through my pile and I picked out a few that are cool, and I thought it'd be cool to share with you guys, so check it out. Alright, so here's the first one. This is 1990. It's October of 1990. And this is when I first got into RCs. I was a really little kid back then. Right there on the cover you can see RoboCop. And if you look at what RoboCop's holding, that is clearly a sledgehammer. And like I said earlier, my first kit I ever built was a sledgehammer. So I think it's really cool that both myself and RoboCop had a sledgehammer, so I have something in common with RoboCop. That's awesome. So let's take a look inside this thing. Kyosho Outlaw Ultima, that was a cool truck. I remember that. Right there is a brush motor, $59.99 Royal Eagle. That was a lot of money back then. Consider it was brushed. They didn't have brushless back then. Table of contents. Alright, look at that ad for the Cloudbuster. I actually have a Tamiya poster of that. Oh, there's my boy RoboCop. Different polling motors. They did a lot of weird things back then. They have pit tips right here. They just showed a bunch of pit tips. Some more pit tips, letters and stuff like that. They had readers' rides. I don't even know if the RC Car actually still does a magazine, or maybe it's just all online, but it was cool. You used to be able to send in pictures of your truck or car. Traxxas Eradicator, just some custom builds. This is really cool stuff. RC 500 on-road car. Right there's an ad for a belt drive transmission back in 1990, so they've been doing that for a long time. Novak speed controller. Novak was like the go-to brand for speed controllers back then. Look at that original Blackfoot lunchbox, custom colors. Nitro was like just coming into RC at the time. RC10 graphite chassis. It's funny because I don't even think the RC10T was out in 1990. I didn't think that came to like the early 90s. Alright, RoboCop. That's my boy right there. See, he had a sledgehammer. See, definitely a sledgehammer. RoboCop. Another picture. Look at that action shot of RoboCop reaching for a sledgehammer, about to take down the bad guys. Ooh, RoboCop 2. So right here it proves all through RoboCop's career he had a sledgehammer. Troubleshooting tips. Look at wicked 90s kids. That's awesome. See, back then you could buy battery packs like that, or just the individual battery cells, and you could solder them together. I used to do that. You make like 7 cells and stuff. On-road was just taking off, becoming really cool. So not much else to see for 1990. Then I picked this one. We're going to jump to 1993. Tamiya Mountaineers on the cover. Let's take a look through this one. Right here's another ad for Kyosho. So it was a big deal back then. If you had an inside cover ad for Car Action, you were putting out a lot of money. So Kyosho was always on the inside cover. Right there you can see like their Kyosho Nitro Crusher, which is called a 1A scale. So that's cool. So they had an A scale monster back then. There's their 10 scales. More on-road cars. Like I said, on-road in the 90s was really coming huge. Airtronics right there. That was like a awesome radio rival to the Futaba. More on-road stuff. More letters. Readers rides. Pit tips. Kind of much of the same. Here's some of the motors. This is pretty cool right here. Who remembers a Green Machine? There's another ad for Novak. You had an RC10T. This is 610 reversible, so you could add reverse. That was a big no-no, though. You didn't want to have reverse in a stadium truck. So they called them back then stadium trucks. Now they call them truggies. Reedy, they made some cool motors. Associated, that's when you bought a Team Associated, came with a Reedy motor. I think I might have a couple. You take a look over here. All right, there's an old Novak. That's a 610 reverse. Look at that, 610 RV. So right there's a Reedy Force motor. That was cool. That was another popular motor back then. There's a Losi Double X transmission. That was cool. That was like a state-of-the-art transmission back then. It was offered as a retrofit kit in case you had like a Losi LXT, which is Losi Extreme Truck. This is cool right here. So back then the Cloudbuster was the most popular truck ever. So this is just an article with all the new ESP stuff and some custom RC chassis. There's some more motors right there built in the USA. Everything was USA made, like Associated, Losi. Those were all USA made back then. They were smaller companies. There's an LXT. I still got to get one of those. They pop up on eBay every now and then, and I always miss out on the really good deals. But someday I'll get a mint LXT. You have the RC Truck Buyer's Guide. This was cool. I wish they still did stuff like this today. Sheldon Hobbies was cool back then. Stormer Racing was another huge name. This guy right here, Cliff Lett, he was the man. He kind of looked like MacGyver. Here we go, Tower Hobbies. They were like the biggest name back then. They're still big today. I found out they're recently owned by Horizon Hobby. There's the USA one right there. So you could buy a USA one for $214.99. Not a bad deal. Back issues. So it's pretty cool. You could buy a bunch of back issues. Buckner Hobbies. They were another pretty big one. So this is August of 1993. This is another... I picked this one because this is when all like the racing really started becoming really popular. They were coming out with a lot of new motors. So there's the Trinity Force motor. That was a really nice motor back then. So what I was talking about earlier, so you wouldn't really just buy a battery. If you were a hardcore racer, you'll buy a kit like this and you would solder your own together. RC10 was coming out with their team cars because racing was really taking off by 1993. Slot Machine 2 came out, so they were really like stepping up the motors. And Futaba actually had their own stadium truck because stadium trucks were all the rage back then. RC10T really started a legacy. Nitro's becoming popular. More on-road stuff. By 1993, I think the on-road was starting to like be phased out. Not phased out, but it just wasn't as cool. Low C LXT, I still really want to get one of those. That was the truck of the year in 93. Green Machine 2. Take a look at that right there. That's pretty cool, huh? MIP. So they were around in the early 90s when they started making their CVDs. So made MIP popular. This is cool too. They also had a track directory back then because off-road racing was so popular. So you had 1, 2, 3, 4 and a half, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 pages of tracks, or 8 and a half. They even used to have dynos for the electric motors, tell you how much horsepower and torque they made. Another ad for the 610 reversible. Great Plains Hobbies. Ace Hardware Hobbies. So if you've heard of Ace Hardware, they actually used to have a hobby shop. It's how popular RC was back in the 90s. Whole thing about speed controllers. More on-road cars. More tower hobbies. So now I'm going to jump to 1995. The reason I picked this one is ESP right on the cover. You can see the ESP. They made all the Clodbuster stuff. This was their Clodzilla 4. It was really popular. Monster trucks in the mid-90s was really huge. There's some Reader Rise. You can see monster trucks. They were really starting to do like different aftermarket chassis back then. There's an ad for the RC10T. I have a couple of these new in the box. RC10 World's car. Tamiya Toyota Pre-Runner. Those are very hard to find today. Alright, here we go. This is a cool article. This is one I was looking for. This is a totally tricked out Clodbuster. If you had something like this back in the day, you were the man. So that's a similar stadium truck body. ESP Clodzilla, I believe that's 4. No, 3. It's Clodzilla 3 chassis. Brian Kinwald right there. He was another champ. He's no longer with us. Sorry to hear that. Right there on the back's MRC, MT10. MRCs were pretty cool. They were kind of rare back then too. Mostly it's just from like 95. This is when the RC10 T2 came out. It's all pretty much the same stuff. Clodbuster versus USA 1. So anyway, that's about it. I just figured I'd show off a couple of these old vintage RC stuff after watching the Tamiya Legends RC video, where he did like a look back at some old vintage photos. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Take care. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. I'll see you next time.